The sea breathes in and out, a rhythm older than memory. Waves rise and fall, whispering secrets to the listening shore. Beneath the surface, light bends and scatters like shards of glass. The ocean holds stories that drift beyond time and tide. One such story speaks of Poseidon, lord of the boundless deep. He is not only a god of storms, but also a keeper of harmony. For ages, he guided currents, calmed tempests, and nurtured life. Yet even a guardian feels the stir of mystery in the depths. Legends tell of a jewel hidden where no mortal eyes can see. A pearl not shaped by chance, but by eternity itself. It is said this pearl can steady the flow of past and future. Some call it myth, others call it the ocean's heart of light. Poseidon alone hears the whisper carried by the waves. The whisper speaks of change, of choices yet to come. The sea begins to hum, as though awaiting an answer. Tonight, you will hear the tale hidden in waters untamed. A tale of wonder, of wisdom, of balance everlasting. Listen now, as the current carries us deeper into mystery. This is the story of Poseidon and the Pearl of Eternity. The sea is never silent, even in its calmest hours. It hums, it whispers, it carries voices across endless blue. Each wave speaks a message older than the stars above. The gods listen, though mortals rarely understand the song. Tonight, let us follow the current to a deeper tale. It begins not with thunder or storm, but with silence. Poseidon, ruler of the oceans, sat upon his coral throne. His eyes drifted far beyond the swaying kelp forests. The trident beside him glowed faintly, sensing his thoughts. For days the waters had carried a peculiar sound. It was not the call of whales, nor the rush of tides. It was softer, thinner, like a voice woven in mist. The sea god leaned closer, and the ocean answered. It whispered of something hidden, something long forgotten. The whisper was not in words, but in rhythm and tone. Poseidon understood, for he spoke the language of waves. The ocean spoke of change stirring beneath the deep. It spoke of a treasure untouched by mortal hands, a pearl that did not belong to time's restless march. The Pearl of Eternity, once only a legend. Poseidon closed his eyes, listening with patience. He recalled old songs sung by nymphs and sirens. They had spoken of a jewel glowing like the moon. They had sung of a secret chamber guarded by silence. The pearl was said to hold more than beauty. It was said to steady the flow of past and future. A gift not for power, but for balance everlasting. Still, no one had seen it for countless ages. The map was lost, the guardians forgotten, the path erased. Yet now the ocean itself called to him again. Poseidon's heart stirred, though he felt no greed. He knew the sea gave, and the sea tested. Nothing in its depths revealed itself without purpose. The whispers grew stronger, carried by schools of fish. They passed, through corals, through drifting seagrass, through shells. Each ripple carried a fragment of a greater song. The god listened, piecing together the melody. It spoke not of command, but of responsibility. Poseidon rose, his cloak of foam trailing behind. Around him, dolphins leapt as if sensing his resolve. Sea nymphs gathered, curious of their lord's mood. One, with hair like silver threads, bowed before him. "My lord," she said, "the waves call louder each dawn." Poseidon nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. It is not a call of storm, but of memory. The nymph's eyes widened, for she too knew the tale. "The pearl," she whispered, as though naming a dream. Poseidon's voice was steady, deep as the seabed. If the pearl returns to song, the balance is shifting. He did not rise with haste, nor summon thunder. Instead, he moved with the calm of tides eternal. The sea was patient. and so too must he be. Through the shifting waters, the whispers thickened. It was as though the ocean itself leaned closer. The shells upon the ocean floor began to tremble. Tiny currents swirled into spirals, glowing faintly. Symbols appeared in sand, patterns no mortal could read. Poseidon traced them with his hand, understanding their meaning. The ocean was offering him the first sign. It was not a command, but an invitation. The journey would not be of conquest, but of discovery. The pearl of eternity called, not to be taken. It called to be remembered, honored, and understood. Poseidon felt a calm resolve fill his vast heart. He turned to the sea creatures gathered nearby. "Guard the waters in my absence," he told them. Whales rumbled, turtles bowed, and rays drifted in circles. The ocean's family acknowledged their lord's words with grace. And so began his path, not with thunder, but with a whisper. The whisper of the waves, guiding him toward eternity. The ocean swayed gently, yet its voice grew clearer each dawn. Poseidon walked among gardens of coral where silence often lived. Today, even silence seemed to shimmer with a restless song. The sea nymph who had spoken before returned with haste. Her eyes carried light, like a pearl reflecting distant stars. "My lord," she whispered, "the currents bear a stranger call." Poseidon lifted his gaze, patient as the rising tide. "What do they sing, child of the waves?" he asked. "They speak of a path," she said, trembling in wonder. "A path to the pearl that mortals call eternity." The words hung in the water like glowing lanterns. Poseidon knew this was no mortal dream or fable. The sea itself had stirred, and truth was awakening. He turned his steps toward the oldest grove of shells. There, hidden beneath moss and memory, lay an ancient chest. It was carved not of wood, but of hardened coral. On its surface, markings curved like tides frozen in time. Poseidon touched the chest, and it opened with ease. Inside lay a map etched onto shimmering shells of silver. The design was simple, yet the meaning vast as oceans. It showed no straight course, but spirals and shifting lines. The pearl could not be reached by strength or speed. It required patience, wisdom, and harmony with the sea. The god studied the map, tracing lines with his hand. They led not to a place, but to a journey. Each curve represented a test, each spiral a lesson. The path was as much inward as it was outward. Poseidon closed the chest, and the shells dimmed to quiet. He carried them with care, as one carries memory. The nymph watched in awe, her voice soft as foam. "Will you go, Lord of the Deep?" she asked. Poseidon's reply was steady, certain as the moonlit tide. "The sea calls, and I must follow its song." As he spoke, dolphins danced, sensing the rising destiny. Whales sang low notes, like drums of the world's heart. Schools of fish shimmered, weaving patterns like moving constellations. The ocean itself seemed to gather in silent anticipation. Poseidon set forth, moving through waters both calm and vast. He passed gardens of coral that glowed like twilight fires. He crossed plains of sand where shipwrecks slept in silence. Everywhere he traveled, the whispers grew brighter, more insistent. They told him the pearl was not for possession. They told him the pearl was for remembrance and care. He listened with humility, for even gods must learn. As he swam deeper, the light began to change. It was no longer the sun's gift through the waves. It was a glow that came from the ocean itself. He felt its warmth, though no heat touched his skin. It was the warmth of a promise, ancient and enduring. The path was clear, not in sight, but in spirit. Poseidon moved forward, guided not by eyes, but by heart. The nymph followed behind, singing to steady the waters. Her song echoed, and the dolphins swam in rhythm. Together, they formed a procession through the endless blue. At last, they reached the first gate of the journey. It was not stone, nor coral, nor mortal craft. It was a vast arch made entirely of living light. Each strand wove itself like seaweed of pure radiance. The whispers converged, becoming a single voice of calling. Guardian of seas, step through if your heart is true. Poseidon paused, steady as a mountain beneath the waves. He placed his trident forward, though it did not strike. Instead, it glowed, resonating with the arch of light. The gate shimmered, opening like dawn across the horizon. Poseidon stepped through, and the sea grew utterly silent. For in silence, the journey of eternity truly begins. The arch of light faded, leaving the sea calm once more. Poseidon stood within a vast chamber made of coral walls. They curved like waves, frozen in a single, eternal moment. The floor shimmered with shells that glowed in soft rhythm. At the center lay a pedestal carved from ancient stone. Upon it rested fragments of an older map long forgotten. Poseidon approached, each step steady as the turning tides. The shells on the pedestal pulsed as if alive. When he touched them, visions stirred within the water. He saw oceans as they had been before his reign. Seas untouched by mortal ships, pure and unmeasured by time. The vision shifted, showing storms beyond mortal endurance. Tides rose too high, rivers overflowed, coasts vanished in silence. The balance of sea and sky trembled like a fragile shell. Then, the image faded into darkness. Leaving one glowing line, it pointed toward the deepest trench, hidden from mortal eyes. Poseidon knew this was the second key to the pearl. The trench was not marked on maps of men or gods. It belonged only to memory, guarded by time itself. The god closed his hand around the glowing fragment. It dimmed, leaving only a faint warmth against his palm. Behind him, the nymph's song echoed, soft but unwavering. She had followed, though the chamber weighed upon her spirit. "My lord," she said, "the visions stir fear in me." Poseidon's voice rumbled, low but steady like distant thunder. Fear reminds us that what we seek must be earned. He placed the fragment inside the chest of coral. The map shimmered, forming new lines across its surface. Spirals connected to the trench, weaving paths like flowing rivers. Yet the lines shifted each time his eyes followed them. The journey would never be straight. It was alive, breathing. Poseidon understood the test was not of strength alone. It was trust, patience, and surrender to the ocean's will. He left the chamber, the coral walls closing silently behind. As he swam, the water grew cooler, shadows lengthening. The dolphins paused, uneasy, sensing the depth ahead. Even the whales held back, reluctant to go further. The trench was feared, for it was called the abyss of echoes. Every sound made there never faded, but repeated forever. Some said voices of the past still drifted within. Others whispered that eternity itself could be heard below. Poseidon pressed onward, though he slowed his mighty strokes. The nymph beside him clung close, her courage fragile. "Do not fear the echoes," Poseidon told her gently. "They are not chains, but reminders of what has been." Soon the waters opened to a chasm vast and dark. Its edges vanished into nothing, deeper than sight allowed. A sound rose, faint but haunting, like countless voices weeping. It was not sorrow, but the weight of memory eternal. Poseidon's trident glowed softly, guiding him through the descent. The deeper he swam, the stronger the echoes became. He heard his own voice repeated, stretched into infinity. Each word he spoke was carried and reshaped by time. The nymph gasped, covering her ears with trembling hands. The echoes pulled at her thoughts, distorting her song. Poseidon steadied her with a single calm gesture. "Listen not with fear, but with patience," he instructed. "They are only truths repeated until they are understood." The trench floor appeared, covered in shells of every age. Each shell held a memory, a sound trapped in time. Whale songs, mortal prayers, storms, laughter, even silence itself. Poseidon lowered his hand, touching one of the shells. The echo that rose was his own laughter as a child. He remembered days before storms, when seas were still. The nymph touched another shell and heard her mother's lullaby. Her tears glistened, but she smiled, her fear now eased. The trench revealed itself not as a prison, but as a keeper, a library of sounds, a memory of every wave. Poseidon knew now why the Pearl's path passed this place. To guard eternity, one must first honor the past. He bowed his head, whispering thanks to the abyss of echoes. The trench rumbled softly, as if acknowledging his respect. A new current rose, spiraling upward with gentle force. It carried Poseidon and the nymph toward brighter waters above. The map in his chest glowed, another piece complete. The journey pressed onward, guided by whispers and memory. For the Pearl of Eternity waited, patient as the sea. The current carried Poseidon upward until the waters grew bright. The nymph swam close, her song soft like drifting clouds. Before them stretched a valley framed by towers of coral. They rose in spirals, glowing with hues of ruby and gold. This was the place the map called the Coral Gates. Legends said only hearts in harmony could pass within. The gates were no walls, but living arches of color. Each coral branch bent inward, forming a radiant doorway. Fish darted through, scales flashing like shards of sunlight. Poseidon slowed, for he felt the weight of silence. The coral pulsed faintly, alive with an unseen rhythm. It was as though the sea itself was breathing here. The nymph touched a branch, and it sang like glass. She gasped, pulling back, eyes wide with wonder. Poseidon raised his trident, not to strike, but to listen. The coral resonated, echoing the melody of his heart. The sound was neither storm nor calm, but both combined. The gates responded, glowing brighter in gentle acceptance. Yet the passage did not open fully at once. Instead, the coral began to weave shifting patterns of light. Each pattern formed a question, though no words were spoken. Poseidon understood, for questions need not always be voiced. The first pattern shimmered as a spiral without end. It asked, "What is the nature of eternity?" Poseidon answered with silence, knowing silence speaks truth. Eternity was not endless noise, but unbroken balance. The gates pulsed, acknowledging his understanding with soft radiance. Then a second pattern formed, like waves crossing each other. It asked, "Who holds the sea, the god or the tide?" Poseidon placed his hand upon the coral, calm and steady. "The sea holds me," he whispered, "as much as I hold it." The gates shone brighter, and the water sang with approval. A third pattern appeared, shaped like two shells entwined. It asked, "What is strength, command, or compassion?" Poseidon smiled, his gaze soft as the seabed at dawn. "Strength is not command alone," he said, "but care that endures." The coral gates resonated, their glow spreading far into the sea. Fish circled in spirals, joining the harmony of the gates. The nymph's song blended with the melody, weaving a hymn. The gates opened wider, revealing a path of shining sand. The way forward shimmered as though woven from starlight. Poseidon stepped through, the coral closing gently behind him. Beyond the gates, the sea stretched into a wide expanse. It was a sanctuary untouched by mortal sails or storms. Sea turtles glided slowly, their shells glowing faintly in rhythm. Dolphins leapt, weaving arcs that glittered with hidden fire. Every creature moved as though part of a single symphony. The nymph whispered, "It is beautiful beyond dream." Poseidon nodded, yet his eyes held a deeper thought. For beauty was not the destination, but only a guide. The true path lay hidden within harmony itself. As they swam onward, the waters grew warmer and clearer. Voices rose, not echoes this time, but songs of life. The very current carried music like unseen choirs. Poseidon paused, letting the sound flow through his spirit. It was not a test, but a gift of the sea. The coral gates had granted him passage and wisdom. He had answered not with power, but with truth. The path ahead was no longer uncertain, but alive. It pulsed with light, guiding him toward the next trial. The nymph's eyes glowed with courage as she followed close. "Where do we go now, Lord of the Deep?" she asked. Poseidon's voice was calm, deep as the shifting tides. "We go where the song leads, for the sea does not lie." And so they journeyed beyond the coral gates of light. The ocean grew vast, shimmering with secrets yet untold. Each wave whispered of destiny, patient as eternity itself. The sea grew dim again, though not with darkness, but with mystery. Poseidon and the nymph swam into waters hushed with secrecy. The light from behind faded, replaced by shadows that glimmered faintly. Ahead stretched a canyon deep and vast, carved by ancient tides. Its walls rose high, etched with patterns of forgotten symbols. This was the abyss of whispers, known to none but legend. The map had shown its spiral, a test of listening hearts. Poseidon felt the currents shift, tugging softly at his spirit. The nymph drew closer, her voice hushed with awe. "Do you hear it, Lord of the Sea?" she whispered. At first, there was only silence, deep and unbroken. Then, faint voices stirred, like echoes from distant dreams. They were not the songs of creatures, but of memory itself. The canyon spoke not in words, but in layered whispers. Some were joyful, recalling feasts of dawn and birth. Some were sorrowful, heavy with partings and farewells. All together, they wove a tapestry of timeless stories. Poseidon closed his eyes, letting the voices wash over him. Each whisper was like a current, carrying meaning unseen. One asked, "Do you rule the sea or serve it?" Another asked, "Do you seek the pearl for glory or care?" Poseidon breathed deeply, letting silence become his answer. For he knew the sea was not possession, but kinship. The canyon deepened, and the whispers grew louder. The voices no longer questioned, but sang in harmony. They sang of tides eternal, of cycles never broken. The nymph's song joined theirs, weaving a thread of light. Together, they shaped a melody that filled the abyss. The canyon walls glowed faintly, symbols shining like stars. One by one, they formed into flowing lines of radiance. The whispers ceased, leaving only a stillness profound. The canyon itself seemed to bow before Poseidon's presence. From its depths, a path of light unfolded upward. The nymph gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "The whispers have given you their trust," she said. Poseidon nodded, though his heart carried humility. For trust was not a gift, but a bond to uphold. As they ascended the path, shapes stirred in the shadows. They were not beasts, but guardians made of shimmering mist. Their forms shifted like waves caught between storm and calm. They surrounded Poseidon, yet bore no malice or threat. Instead, they circled him, testing the rhythm of his heart. Poseidon held steady, his spirit calm as the still sea. The guardians drifted closer, their forms glowing brighter. One touched his trident, and it sang like crystal. Another brushed his hand, and warmth filled his veins. At last, they dissolved into streams of light, vanishing upward. The canyon widened, opening into a chamber of peace. Here the water was so clear it seemed like glass. Pearls lay scattered across the floor, shining softly. Yet none carried the glow of the pearl of eternity. These were echoes, fragments of the greater truth. The nymph gathered one, holding it close to her heart. "It feels alive," she whispered, eyes shimmering with awe. Poseidon touched another, and it pulsed like a heartbeat. The whispers returned, soft as the murmur of waves. "Do not keep," they said. "Only remember." Poseidon released the pearl, letting it drift back to rest. The nymph followed, setting hers gently among the others. The chamber glowed brighter, the pearls singing together. A current swept through, lifting them toward the surface. Poseidon followed the flow, guided by faith not sight. The nymph swam beside him, her song strong with hope. Together, they rose from the abyss of whispers renewed. The sea greeted them with light, vast and boundless. And ahead the map promised yet another trial to come. The waters grew brighter, touched by glimmers of emerald light. Poseidon swam forward, sensing a realm, both alive and ancient. The nymph followed, her song hushed as if in reverence. They entered a vast forest of kelp, rising like golden towers. Each strand swayed, moving in rhythm with unseen currents. The map had whispered of this place, the Garden of Tides. Here, time did not pass as mortals understood it. Each leaf carried memory, each root held echoes of history. Poseidon slowed, for the forest demanded silence and care. The nymph brushed her hand along a kelp leaf. It glowed softly, showing visions of a long-forgotten dawn. She gasped as the image revealed oceans in their youth. Mountains unborn, rivers uncarved, skies untouched by storm. Poseidon touched another leaf, and he too saw visions. Cities of coral rising, creatures swimming in first light. The forest revealed not secrets, but truth unbroken. The garden was memory itself, woven into living form. A deep hum resonated from the kelp around them. It was the voice of the garden, patient and vast. "Guardian of seas," it spoke. "Why do you come here?" Poseidon bowed his head, his tone calm and steady. "I come not for power, but for harmony with eternity." The kelp swayed faster, whispering among themselves. The garden seemed to test the weight of his words. At last, a pathway opened, lined by glowing strands. The nymph's eyes widened, her voice no louder than waves. "They accept you," she whispered, "but only if you listen." Poseidon stepped forward, each movement gentle as dawn. The path twisted, showing him visions as he walked. One vision showed mortals casting nets, taking without balance. Another showed storms rising when greed ruled the tides. A third revealed the pearl, glowing yet beyond reach. It was not in his hand, but in the care of the sea. Poseidon stopped, reflecting on the meaning before him. The pearl was never a prize, but a reminder. The nymph touched his arm, her eyes shining with tears. "Do you see?" she asked, voice trembling with hope. Poseidon nodded, his heart swelling with quiet certainty. "The sea does not give, it shares," he said. "The pearl is not mine, but all life's to honor." The garden pulsed with light, filling the waters with radiance. Kelp leaves shimmered, releasing strands of golden memory. The strands wrapped around Poseidon, not binding, but blessing. The nymph too was touched, her song rising in harmony. Together, they glowed with the garden's living truth. The voice of the garden spoke once more, solemn and kind. You walk the path, not of rulers, but of stewards. Carry this memory, and the pearl will reveal itself. The light faded, leaving calm and stillness once again. Poseidon felt no burden, only a deepened clarity. The nymph smiled, her face radiant as dawn light. They swam onward, guided by the glowing strands. Soon the forest thinned, opening to a wide expanse. The waters shimmered with silver light from unseen stars. A new current pulled them gently, urging them forward. Poseidon raised his trident, its tip glowing faintly. The map within him had grown brighter with each trial. He knew the journey was far from done, yet he carried no doubt, only a steady faith. For the Garden of Tides had shown him truth. The pearl was not to be claimed, but remembered, and remembrance itself was the first step toward eternity. The current carried them into waters painted with silver and blue. Poseidon felt a shift, subtle yet powerful, like destiny's breath. The nymph swam close, her song hushed to a single note. Before them spread a plain of shimmering sand, endless and bright. Yet the sand was not still, but alive with patterns. Waves etched spirals and circles, then erased them once more. The map had named this place the Mirror of Tides. Here, truths hidden within would rise to the surface. Poseidon stopped, sensing the sea waiting for his stillness. The nymph whispered, "This is no trial of strength." "No," Poseidon answered. "This is a trial of reflection." The waters grew calm, and the sand began to glow. From its surface, images rose like ripples of glass. The first showed Poseidon, crowned and holding storms in hand. He saw himself commanding oceans with thunderous pride. The image cracked, revealing seas drowning in sorrow. The second showed him walking among mortals, unseen and humble. He gave them water, guided their sails, healed their nets. This vision shone, but then dimmed into shadowed silence. The third rose higher, brighter than the rest. It showed him neither god nor ruler, but guardian. He stood with dolphins, with coral, with mortals and tides. All moved as one, balanced in harmony eternal. Poseidon felt his heart grow still, like the center of waves. The nymph watched, tears shimmering in her gentle eyes. "What do you see, Lord of the Sea?" she asked. Poseidon's voice was deep, steady as the shifting tide. "I see that the sea does not need a throne. Its power is not mine to claim, but to protect." The mirror of tides pulsed, glowing brighter with his words. The sand swirled, forming spirals that reached toward the sky. The water trembled, then settled in perfect stillness. A voice rose, soft and deep, like waves against stone. "You have looked within and found not pride, but balance. Carry this truth, and the path shall remain clear." Poseidon bowed, his trident glowing with quiet radiance. The nymph's song rose gently, joining the sea's voice. Together, they stood in harmony with the mirror's truth. Then the sand shifted, revealing a hidden passage below. It spiraled downward, glowing faintly with golden light. The current urged them forward, but without force or haste. Poseidon swam ahead, the nymph following with calm faith. The passage opened into a cavern vast and hollow. Its walls shimmered with crystals shaped by ages untold. Each crystal reflected Poseidon's image, yet slightly altered. In some he was stern, in others gentle and kind. The cavern tested not his strength, but his acceptance. He gazed upon each reflection without judgment or denial. The nymph touched one crystal, and it rang like a bell. Her reflection showed her singing, guiding tides with melody. She smiled softly, as though meeting her truest self. Together, they passed through the cavern of countless reflections. At last, the crystals dimmed, and the sea grew wide again. The plain of sand returned, but now it was calm. No spirals, no shifting, only balance deep and quiet. The mirror of tides had given its lesson and gift. Poseidon raised his trident, and its glow steadied. The nymph sang once more, her voice sure and free. Ahead, the current opened, revealing a new horizon. The journey called them still, with secrets yet untold. Poseidon swam forward, his heart lightened, his path clear. For he had learned that reflection was as vital as power, and within reflection lay the strength to honor eternity. The sea deepened, its hues shifting from silver to indigo calm. Poseidon swam steadily, guided by the glow of his trident. The nymph followed, her song now quiet but unwavering. Before them rose cliffs of black stone, jagged yet solemn. They towered high, vanishing into shadows above the waves. This place was known only as the Echoing Abyss. The map had spoken little, leaving its meaning unclear. As they entered, the water grew heavy with silence. No current stirred, no creature swam, no sound lived. The nymph whispered, "Even my song does not belong here." Poseidon's gaze was firm, though he too felt the weight. The cliffs glistened with faint marks, symbols carved long ago. Each symbol shimmered softly when touched by trident light. The abyss spoke not in words, but in echoes. Poseidon pressed forward, his heart steady as tide. The walls of stone began to hum with resonance. Voices rose, familiar yet distant, like memory returned. The first was the sea herself, gentle and eternal. "You are my son, yet you must hear my truth. Not all power is meant to be kept or wielded." The sound faded, leaving ripples in Poseidon's heart. Another voice rose, deeper, carrying both weight and care. It was the echo of his father, the Titan Cronus. "You once raged against bonds, seeking freedom unbroken. But freedom without wisdom leads only to emptiness." The echo lingered, pressing heavy as stone upon him. The nymph touched his arm, grounding him in silence. A third voice rose, lighter, carried on streams of song. It was the echo of mortals, fragile yet determined. "Great Lord, we sail your seas, yet fear your storms. Grant us not favor, but balance in our days." Poseidon closed his eyes, each echo shaping his thought. The abyss grew brighter, as though listening to his soul. He raised his trident, but not in force, in offering. "I hear the sea, my father, and the voice of mortals. I claim no dominion, only duty to balance." The cliffs trembled, light seeping from their carved marks. The echoes softened, merging into a single harmony. The abyss no longer pressed upon them with weight. Instead, it opened, revealing a hidden chamber within. Inside, the walls shone like polished obsidian glass. Every surface reflected Poseidon and the nymph beside him. Yet the reflections shifted, showing countless possibilities. In one, Poseidon held the pearl with pride alone. In another, the pearl slipped away into endless dark. But in one reflection, brightest of them all, he stood aside. The pearl rested not in hand, but in the heart of the sea. The nymph's reflection glowed, her song weaving through the vision. She sang not for herself, but for all who listened. Together, their reflections merged with the pearl's glow. The chamber pulsed, then fell still once more. Poseidon lowered his trident, his eyes calm and steady. The abyss does not test strength, but the weight of echoes. The nymph nodded, her face serene as moonlit tide. They left the chamber, the cliffs parting with silent grace. The water beyond shimmered, touched by unseen stars. A current rose again, gentle but insistent, guiding them. Poseidon followed, carrying the echoes within his heart, for he knew the journey was as much inward as outward, and the pearl would not reveal itself without listening first. The waters softened, their darkness giving way to shimmering teal light. Poseidon felt the current slow, wrapping them in gentle embrace. The nymph lifted her head, her voice stirring once again. "Here lies the sanctuary of whispers," she said with quiet awe. The sea around them seemed alive with murmurs of song. Each wave carried voices, soft, ancient, and endless in number. The sanctuary was not built but woven by the sea. Shells lined the sea floor, glowing faintly like stars in sand. Coral spires rose, shaped like harps tuned to eternity. Poseidon slowed, for even the trident dimmed in reverence. The nymph's song joined the whispers, blending into harmony. The sea answered, layering countless voices upon her melody. Together, they formed a chorus, both vast and intimate. Poseidon closed his eyes, listening beyond sound itself. The whispers carried fragments of truth from every corner. Some spoke of creation, of the sea's first stirring breath. Others sang of journeys, of sailors guided by unseen hands. A few whispered warnings of greed that unbalanced the tides. Poseidon heard each, his heart swelling with memory untold. Then the whispers shifted, turning their voice toward him alone. "Lord of the seas, what do you seek among us?" He breathed deep, his voice steady as ocean winds. "I seek not to take, but to honor what is eternal." The whispers swirled, echoing his words across the sanctuary. The corals glowed brighter, as if testing his truth. The nymph watched, her song steady but her gaze unsure. Then the whispers rose, no longer many but one. A single voice spoke, layered and clear as crystal. "The pearl rests not in dominion, but in devotion. To hear eternity, you must first give your silence." Poseidon bowed his head, lowering the trident before him. He spoke no words, letting his silence answer instead. The sanctuary pulsed, its glow deepening into radiant waves. The whispers softened, no longer testing but embracing. The sea cradled them, like a mother holding her children. The nymph's song faded, replaced by stillness unbroken, for silence itself had become the greatest hymn of all. The sanctuary opened, revealing a hidden circle of stone. Upon it lay an image carved into the seafloor. The carving was of a pearl, simple yet luminous. It shone not with power, but with remembrance eternal. Poseidon knelt, his hand brushing lightly across the image. At his touch, the pearl's glow filled the sanctuary. The whispers sang once more, softer than a lullaby. "You are closer, yet the journey remains before you. Guard not the pearl as treasure, but as memory." The glow faded, leaving calm waters in its place. Poseidon rose, his heart filled with quiet certainty. The nymph touched his hand, her eyes gentle and proud. "You have given silence, and the sea has answered." Together they turned, leaving the sanctuary with reverence. The corals dimmed, the shells fell still. The song ceased, yet its echo remained within them, guiding their way. The current stirred once more, pulling them to new depths. Poseidon followed, the trident glowing brighter than before. For silence had given him strength greater than storms, and the pearl, though unseen, was closer than ever. The current carried them deeper, into waters lit by shifting gold. Poseidon felt the tide grow warmer, touched by ancient fire. The nymph's song trembled, sensing both wonder and caution ahead. They entered a cavern of light, its walls glowing like dawn. Here burned no flame, yet everything shimmered as if alive. This place was known as the luminous Veil of Ages. The map had marked it faintly, almost as if unsure. The airless sea glowed with memories turned to radiant streams. Each ribbon of light swirled, carrying visions within its glow. Poseidon reached out, and the stream wrapped gently around him. It revealed a time when gods first shaped the seas. Oceans spread wide, guided by hands both gentle and strong. The nymph touched another ribbon, her eyes filling with awe. She saw mortals sailing, their hearts filled with fragile hope. Each ribbon carried not one truth, but countless stories woven. The cavern sang softly, voices hidden within every gleam. Poseidon's trident glowed brighter, resonating with the flowing lights. Then a stream coiled around him, brighter than the rest. It showed him a vision of the pearl, gleaming, eternal. But in the vision, he was not alone beside it. The nymph was there, her song keeping the pearl aglow, and beyond them, mortals thrived in seas both calm and vast. Poseidon's heart stirred, for the pearl's light was shared. Never a prize, never a possession, always a remembrance. The veil rippled, testing his resolve with shifting streams of light. One ribbon showed him as conqueror, bending tides to will. Another as ruler, crowned by coral and worshipped by all. But these visions cracked, their light scattering into emptiness. Only the vision of harmony held steady, glowing brighter still. The cavern deepened its song, echoing through stone and water. The nymph sang with it, her melody soft yet true. Their voices merged, weaving with the light in gentle accord. Poseidon bowed his head, lowering the trident in acceptance. I do not seek to rule, but to remember. I do not claim, but I will guard what endures. The veil pulsed, its light swelling until all was radiant. The cavern shook gently, like a heartbeat beneath the sea. Then the streams of light twined together into a path. It stretched forward, shimmering with promise and memory alike. The nymph touched Poseidon's hand, her eyes shimmering. Your truth has aligned with the sea's eternal memory. Poseidon stepped forward, carrying both silence and song within. The veil parted, its radiance flowing around them like tide. They followed the glowing path, guided by trust and resolve. Beyond the cavern lay waters stilled, calm and infinite. Stars above shimmered though they were far beneath waves. It felt as if sea and sky had blended as one. The trident glowed faint, yet steady, pointing to unseen horizon. Poseidon felt clarity, yet also a deeper mystery waiting. The pearl was close, its presence woven into every current. But he knew now it would not be reached by force. Only devotion, harmony, and remembrance could reveal its heart. The nymph's song lifted once more, guiding them forward. And the sea listened, carrying their vow into eternity. The sea hushed as Poseidon reached the threshold of eternity's heart. The waters parted into a silence vast and infinite. No current stirred, no storm brewed, only calm unbroken. Here, the pearl of eternity rested, cradled by time itself. It gleamed softly, not with fire, but with living memory. Its light was gentle, as if breathing with the sea. Poseidon approached, the trident glowing in harmony beside him. The nymph's song drifted, weaving threads of reverence and trust. The pearl pulsed, sensing their presence with ancient awareness. Visions unfolded like tides washing through the god's mind. He saw oceans of past, where gods first shaped life. He saw mortal sailors, braving waves with fragile courage. He saw futures unwritten, shifting like mist over waves. Each vision whispered the same truth. Balance was eternal. The pearl was not a prize, nor a crown to wear. It was a promise, binding sea, sky, and time together. Poseidon laid down his trident, kneeling before the glow. His voice was low, carried in currents to all waters. I will not command eternity. I will safeguard it. The pearl's light swelled, wrapping him in luminous embrace. It flowed outward, touching the nymph, the sea, the stars. Every tide stirred, every wave sang, every shore listened. The pearl dissolved into streams of light, merging with all. Its essence wove into ocean and memory, eternal yet unseen. No one could own it, for it lived in balance. Poseidon rose, his heart lighter than it had ever been. The trident shimmered, now etched with threads of radiant pearl. The nymph smiled, her voice trembling with gentle triumph. The sea remembers, and so will all who listen. The cavern of stillness faded, replaced by flowing waters. Currents returned, playful and strong, alive with new song. Poseidon lifted his gaze, feeling the ocean's endless pulse. He was not its ruler, but its keeper and friend. The journey had not ended, for tides never cease. They only change, flowing from moment to moment, unbroken. The nymph swam beside him, her melody guiding the way. Together they rose through waters glowing with quiet joy. Above them, light rippled, as if stars bowed to see. The world was the same, yet more alive than before. Every ripple carried memory, every tide sang of harmony. The pearl's promise was now part of ocean's eternal song. Poseidon felt no triumph, only peace deep and steady. He knew mortals would still struggle, gods would still clash. But the sea would endure, holding balance at its core. He had not claimed eternity, he had remembered it. The waves carried this truth, whispering to every distant shore. A story not of conquest, but of trust and care. A reminder that the greatest treasures cannot be owned. They can only be honored, lived, and carried forward. Poseidon drifted back into the currents, the nymph by his side. Their voices blended, a hymn for all who sail or dream. The sea breathed in and out, steady, calm, eternal. And so ends the tale of Poseidon and the Pearl of Eternity. But like the tide, stories never truly end, they return. Carry this one with you, as the ocean carries the stars. For every wave you hear still hums with its song. And the memory of eternity waits within every drop of sea.